Hello and welcome to eFocus series webinar. Today we'll be discussing maintaining your database. My name is June Grove from Capital Business Solution. Today we'll be discussing different topics about how to maintain your MIP database so that it'll run at optimal performance. One of the things you want to do is I usually recommend to run a data integrity check. What the data integrity check does is it checks against your general ledger, against your subledger, and other various components of your module. To run a data integrity check, you want to make sure that you're the only one logged into their system, or you have admin rights, and make sure that you have exclusive use. So to access your data integrity check, you want to go down to System, Manage Concurrent User. Now, the reason you go in there is that, again, that's kind of double checking that you're the only one on your system. Once you verify that you're the only one in the system, then what you want to do is you want to go to Organization and click on Data Integrity Checks. So what the screen allows you to do is when you do that is that now it gives you different modules, and you can select them all, or you can select individually. It depends on what you really want to run. Now, obviously, you can see on the left-hand column is where you're able to select, where on the one in the right it says modules. So these are the different modules. In this particular screen, you see a general ledger, AP, and you kind of see AR reporting. And it kind of gives you a description of what the system is checking for. So when you run the data integrity check, depends on the size of your database, it does take some time. In this particular case on my database, it took me about 3 minutes. But then again, I'm not running a big database, so I've seen where a database can run anywhere between 5 to 10 minutes again. So it's kind of, you want to schedule this so that when maybe end of the day or something like that, or after, or maybe a Friday or something like that. So also I would suggest running this on a monthly as your maintenance routine. And when you run the data integrity check, what you really want to see the result is saying integrity check result, everything passed. So that means that your system is running properly and is doing what it's supposed to do. Now in this instance, I kind of shown you that this is where some of the failure happened. In this case, in this particular here, budget module failed, stating that general ledger balances are not equal to the budget detail ledger amount for the following entry. Now, if you go down to the Abila knowledge base and if you look at the data integrity budget fail, what the article will kind of tell you and describe how to fix that. Now, however, if you're not comfortable, then you can please contact the Capital Business and we'll be happy to assist you. Now, for those individual who is accessing Abila by an internet or on a cloud basis, don't have to worry about doing a data integrity check because the Abila will do that for you on a regular basis. So that is pretty good. You don't have to maintain it. But for those that have those databases in-house, this is something that you want to do on a monthly basis. So next, I know we do this all the time, is just making a routine backup database. It's pretty simple process. You don't have to be, anybody has to be out. You can just make a backup on a, for example, if you have a payroll module, the payroll usually asks you to make a backup prior to printing the checks. The other times you really want to make a hot backup, I usually say, is when you're ready to close your fiscal year. But also on a regular basis, you want to make a backup at the end of each day. So to do so, and some of you also have a setup that when you exit, you can make a backup automatically saying, hey, you're ready to buy the exit the program, would you like to make a backup? And you simply say yes, and you have a backup. So again, I just kind of walk you through to open the backup, you go to File, to Backup, and then select the database that you want to backup, and accept the default name. Now, also the default name kind of gives you the, on the first left side, beside the hash, gives you the name of your database. And the next 4 characters is the year. And this, for example, we have a 2016. That means it's a February, the 2016. And next 2 characters, 02, meaning that it was February, and 09 is a date. And the last 4 digits on the far right, 1, 2, 4, 5 is indicate the time, so 12:45, and that is done on a 24-hour military time increment. So that's how you tell when the database was backed up. And then simply once you see that, go ahead and click Start, and then the system will make a backup for you. Now, in any cases, if something goes wrong with your database, then what you want to do is you want to restore your database to the latest backup database that you did. So you go down to, now in this case, you had to be exclusive use, and all user must be exit except for the admin or person with the admin right. So to simply do that, go and open File and Restore Form. Then what you want to do is you want to go ahead and click on this little drop-down menu saying to Restore to Database, and select the name of the database that you want to restore. And once you have the name restored here, then you want to go ahead and click the little dot, what I call a kind of search button. And then you want to browse to locate the file that you want to find. Now, once again, we talked about the date stamp, 21/6, February 09, with 1245 date on it. Now, once you select the file, and you want to go ahead and simply click on Start, and that should be able to restore your database. The other form that you want to do on a monthly as a part of your maintenance function is you want to compress your data file. Now, what compress does? Well, when we write our to a sheet of paper, we tend to write from left to right and from top to bottom. Well, when the computer does the writing and when you put the records in, it pretty much puts in whatever is the nearest where your hard drive is located, or your write or read or write needle per se. So what you want to do is you want to compress the file. Say, for example, I have a client who gave me a file recently, and their data file was like 3 gig. Now, I ran that compressed file, and that 3 gig, after I was compressing it, basically became a 1.5 gig. So obviously you can see there was a lot of wasted space. Also, by doing a compress, your system have a tendency to run a little faster. Now, that also depends on your system that you're running. So in this particular case, when I was doing the compress, it took me about maybe 4 minutes. So again, that's a good solution on a monthly basis to routine to maintain your database so that you have a smooth flowing data. Now, just like we talked about earlier, about making a backup using the MIP. Now, if you're using a full-blown license of the SQL, then one of the things you can do the SQL offers you is you can go ahead and make up your database using a SQL Server Management Studio. And the Management Studio allows there's a functionality that helps you maintain your data, and you can go ahead and schedule it. So what I'm doing here is I'm showing you to the maintenance wizard to set up your plan. So basically what I did is I went ahead and opened up the SQL Management Studio, and basically I went to the file and then say maintain plan wizard, and clicked on it and say, hey, so I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and these are the following steps. So once you click the wizard, the wizard kind of say, here's the SQL Server Maintenance Plan wizard, and this wizard will create a maintenance plan that SQL Server agent can use on a regular basis. So this kind of gives you a little wizard. So I'm just going to kind of walk you through what the wizard screen looks like. So once you have the wizard, you want to name your description. In this case, I just kind of simply call it MIP Backup Plan. And then it's going to ask you, do you want to run as a SQL Server service account? You can also do a drop-down, so you have different choices you have. Then you can select single schedule for the entire plan or no schedule. In this case, I just went ahead and select a single schedule for the entire plan or no schedule, because I kind of want to make sure that I want to get everything all done automatically. Then you can say a client change icon if you want to say, hey, you want what schedule that you want. So if I go ahead and click change, so what the next schedule gives me is that here's my name of the plan. Again, it's MIP Backup Plan. Then I'm going to say schedule type. I'm going to say make it reoccurring, and make sure you turn it on, make it enabling it. Then with the frequency, say, well, I want to do this on a weekly basis, and then do 1 week on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Now, obviously, I didn't put Saturday or Sunday because I'm not be doing any data intake during the Saturday or Sunday. So some of them may, you guys may. So then also say recur at 12 o'clock a.m. because when your server is not doing anything at middle of the night, so then maybe you can say, hey, do this at middle of the night. So then the duration is saying 1 year to start, and then I say I want it to be there's no end date because I want the system to automatically do the routine until I decided to stop it. And once that is done, click on OK. Then the system will say, okay, then once you get that screen, then they're going to say, hey, select maintenance task. In this case, I want to do database integrity. Now, this database integrity is a little different than the MIP data integrity check because, again, what the system, what SQL is doing is a little different than what the MIP is doing because MIP is checking against your GL balance against your sub-ledger balances. But in this case, on the MIP, just what it's doing is it's checking the database integrity. Also, I'm telling the system to do a shrink database. And so again, if you're doing this, the file is shrinking it for you. Then you can do a backup database full, differential, or transactional log. Again, these are the different areas that I went ahead and select. But also notice that a little highlighted here, maintaining cleanup task. So another thing is that besides making a backup, I can tell the system to say clean the old files that I no longer need. So once that is done, go ahead and click on next. So the system says, all right, these are what's been selected to execute, make a backup. Now also, there's a move up and move down. So what you could do is you can select the order of the sequence that happened first. So I'm just kind of saying, hey, make a backup first, check the integrity, shrink the database, and do the maintenance. Then you would just want to click on next. So then you want to define the backup database. So you can go ahead, right now, it's just like icon, you can drop down your menu right over here. Then what it does is that it gives you, let me go back here again, I didn't want me to do that. Select the database, and then what it does is allows you to select the different databases that you want. I guess first and foremost, you probably want to make up your database on your organization database. But you also want to make a backup of MPS SQL Sys because MPS SQL Sys holds all your user accounts and security information. So then you kind of tell them what folder you want to put into. So then again, it's saying define the backup the database full task. So what it does is because I selected the 4 different areas, so it's going to give me a different wizard to doing the different tasks. So I say backup will expire after 14 days. So then the system says, okay, get rid of it, So here it is. So I'm kind of showing you the different database I have in my particular database. Saying you can do all database, system database, all user database, or you can say select appropriate. Then once you say go and click OK, then you have a next button. So now I'm going again, just kind of selecting the different database here. And there you go again. So once that is done, so now I'm going to say define the maintenance cleanup task. So when you want this to clean up again. So I want to keep this for 14 weeks. I'm sorry, not 14 weeks, for 4 weeks. So that's what I want to do. So go ahead and continue. And do you want to write a report to the text file kind of showing you, hey, this is what I did. And if you don't, you can email report as long as your email is set up in your SQL. So then based on everything that you had done, the system is going to give you, all right, these are the list of things that you want me to do. So, create and maintain backup plan, define the backup database full, integrity check, define the strength of the database, and whatnot. So then once you're done, you want to save, or I'm sorry, finish, and then that will give you your plan for your maintenance SQL. So once that is done, then your system is up and running, and the system does a double verify and make sure everything that you put in. So you want to make sure everything's success. So once you've done that, close your maintenance plan, and you'll be active to go. This function is nice for your IT department because now they can automatically plan this without them having to do maintaining your system automatically. Now, also, given that they are making the backup using the SQL, it is a good idea to have your backup taking it to maybe to a secondary backup drive or hard drive, so that you can take off site, so to speak. So you have a recovery disaster recovery plan to make sure that you can have your database available in case something goes wrong. The other part that I usually like to talk about is kind of customizing workstation setting. This is something that a lot of people kind of overlook, but it really has a lot of good functionality here. Say, for example, on your preferences, you can do, say, save form layout. Well, what that really does is that most of you tend to maybe stretch your forms when you're ready to enter. But if you don't have this check, then whatever the file that the forms that you may have stretched out and make it work or change your columns, if you don't click here, then it will always go back to the default setting of the MIP. So that's kind of nice to have that check. Okay. Clear field on save, meaning that when you hit save, then when you're ready to enter next transaction, everything is kind of goes away. And then you can use a drop-down menu. But one of the things, another thing I really like to apply that is, see this little apply offset on save or post. By doing so, it will kind of save us an extra click, because most of us were kind of knowing during the training session, we talked about clicking your offset button and then hit save. Well, if you just say apply offset on save, then all you have to do is simply save it, and the system will automatically make that offset for you. Then you can use enter key to move between field. I run into a lot of these people where people have a hard time using the tab key, so they tend to use the enter. But if you don't check this, then the enter becomes save. Then assume last two digits are cents. One thing I do not want to do is disable auto launch in chart account wizard. I don't like disabling any wizard for that matter. And enable auto launch, and also record per page. Right now it's set for 100, but if you want to say, hey, I got a lot of records, so you can change it to 250, 5, and I believe it's 1,000 is your choices. And then we also have an application setting saying show status bar, workbook interface, and those other areas I really like to use. So the other that you like to do is like maybe warning on exit. And this is where you kind of system says when you leave the system, and if you have a backup rights, you're about to exit MIP, would you like to make a backup? Now, if you don't want the other people to see who doesn't have a backup rights, then you can just uncheck it for in their particular workstation. Now, also keep in mind though, is any changes that you make here is only effect on the workstation, not on a system as a whole. Then you want to confirm delete. So again, system asks you want to go ahead and delete and confirm undo. And also, I noticed in some databases, a lot of people have, when they log into their system, you get a lot of warning messages. Well, to some people, it makes perfect sense, but then to some other staff, may not make perfect sense. So again, if they not want to see this warning on invoices, you want to make sure to uncheck it. But if you do want the warning to happen, then make sure this checks. So go ahead and check those workstations appropriate to the individual user and what their job description is. The other thing I like about it is that I like to highlight the required field. What it really does is it kind of gives me a color. So as a new user, it kind of gives me areas that is required field. And then also I like to do a line shading, because again, though, is that really kind of gives me your eyes view, so you can see the shading of the colors, especially when you're looking at a lot of different information. And the last is that you can use a user tab to, say, for example, you're using Excel. One of the things you can do is you can put the Excel column down here, and what it does is that kind of gives you a little shortcut. So if you go down to the menu and then you click it, and then what it does is that opens up the Excel, so you don't really have to exit out the MIP. So these are some of the little shortcuts that you can use to help you with the using the MIP. So, and that concludes my webinar. So thank you for attending. Have a good day.